Blog Talk Radio.
I'm a soldier for life. The battle I'm fighting has no ending. To struggle is to go the distance. To win is not to care how far one must go.
How you feel? Fine, sir. How you feel? Fine, sir.
How do we get access to this, Jackson?
His lawyers say they can get me in posing as a legal investigator.
You were Huey Newton's lawyer.
Yes.
And now Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson was sentenced 1 year to life for a $70 gas station robbery.
We have 2 hours.
Waiting a long time.
We need brothers who can maintain their self-respect in here, have true strength.
Some people are comparing you to Eldridge Cleaver, Richard Wright, Du Bois. How does your fame affect you when you're locked up all day?
Free the Soledad brothers! Free the Soledad brothers!
Do you understand that there cannot be a peaceful revolution?
Okay, gentlemen, we're taking over.
Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry about your brother.
They will live to regret it. I'll see to that. You hear my words?
Starring Gary Dordan from TV CSI.
This is the military, David.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of George Jackson Radio. I'm your host, Mikhail Ajanaku. Who do we have online so far?
Kumar.
Greetings, Brother Kumar.
Kamau.
What else do we have online?
Kamau Kambon.
Greetings, brothers. Thanks for joining us this evening. Brother Rafiki,
yes,
are you online?
No, I'm on the phone.
Okay. Brother Rafiki, are you there also?
Yes, I'm on as well, brother.
All right, good. Thanks for joining us this evening, brother.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Okay, so we can, seems that we have brothers online, so we can kind of go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off by reading some events in history that occurred this day, May 29th, as well as some that go into June, all the way from May 29th to June 24th. Okay, May 29th, 1851, Sojourner Truth delivers her infamous "I a Woman" speech to the Ohio Women's Rights Convention. May 30th, Conti Cullen, Harlem Renaissance, born, began writing poetry at the age of 14. In 1922, Cullen entered New York University. His poems were published in The Crisis under the leadership of W.E.B. Du Bois. May 30th, 1956, bus boycott began in Tallahassee, Florida. May 30th, 1822, Denmark Vesey was betrayed. Vesey's conspiracy was one of the most elaborate New African revolt plots on record, involved thousands of New Africans in Charleston, South Carolina, and the vicinity. Vesey joined the newly formed African Methodist Episcopal Church in 1817. He became a class leader, preaching to a small group in his home during the week. White Charlestonians constantly monitored the African church, disrupting services and arresting members. Angry Vesey began preaching from the Old Testament, particularly Exodus, and taught followers that they were the new Israelites, the chosen people whose enslavement God would punish with death. Okay. In 1822, Vesey and other leaders from the African church began plotting a rebellion. His chief lieutenant was an East African priest named Gullah Jack, who led the Africans in prayer and rituals and gave them ammunition to protect them in battle. Bessie's theology of liberation, combined with Gullah Jack's African mysticism, inspired potential participants, and the word of the rebellion grew. Bessie set the date for a revolt on July 14th, and men from Charleston and surrounding plantations planned to seize Charleston's arsenal and guard houses, kill the governor, set fire to the city, and kill every white man they saw. But in June, several nervous slaves leaked the plot to their masters, and Charleston authorities began arresting leaders. Bessie was captured on June 22nd, and he and the conspirators were brought to trial. Despite torture and their threat of execution, the men refused to give their followers. That was right on. Okay, let me read one more fact. May 30th, 1881, Booker T. Washington was recommended by General Armstrong for the principalship of the newly planned Tuskegee Institute. Okay. All right, so that's all the facts that I'm going to read for the day because we already have our host online. So, Bomani, could you introduce the brother for this evening?
Okay.
Also giving them an induction.
Okay, I'm going to get a few introductions to myself. I'm going to say free the land, all those identified with land. Revolution greets all those who identify the revolution. Affiliation, all the different affiliation and oppression of our people. It is always a pleasure to be on this platform, to partake in the struggle of my brothers and sisters. Great to see things from different perspectives and different aspects and different outlook, but with the sole purpose of triumphing the criminal mentality or revolutionary mentality, to educate our people and liberate us through our minds. I'd like to bring onto the show a brother who's been in the struggle a long time, who have engaged into a lot of political work, community activism, scholarship. He's been involved with a lot of programs to help the juveniles, programs to help the college students, programs to help our people in general. Who made a lot of contributions. I'd bring Professor Dr. Kamau Kambon. Okay. All right, Black Liberation family. I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you this evening.
Appreciate you, brother. How are you doing tonight, bro?
Okay, I'm all right. We can get started. I don't know what the format is. We can get started.
Okay. I want to ask you, my first question, I want to ask you, can you tell a little people about yourself, where you from, where you grew up at, just basically a little about your upbringing.
Right. Okay, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'll also say this. When brothers usually say that they're from Detroit or they're from New York or they're from L.A., they usually say it in an arrogant way, like that really means something. And usually they're not conscious because they're arrogant in what they say. So I'm just saying this for the record that, I grew up in Brooklyn, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of being conscious. I'm a fast forward. I played ball in high school, and I was on a very good team. I had nothing to do with the team being good. I was like the last guy on the squad. But the team was rated number 1 in the nation. And my senior year, I got pretty good, and I wasn't a good student. I could read and write, but I didn't focus on school at all. I was hanging out with my friends, typical teenager. But what did separate me from my friends is that I love jazz. A brother introduced me to jazz, Miles Davis and John Coltrane, his brother Ahmad Jamal. And from there, my whole vibration was different from everybody else around me. And I was out of school for a year, and I worked. And I there was one particular club in Brooklyn that had a lot of jazz performers, and I got a chance to stand next to John Coltrane. I was too scared to say anything to him, but it was really a great experience just being in the club and hearing him play for 7 days in a row. Every day he was there, I was there. And I got a chance to go to school out in the Midwest. And I just ran into a guy, and he said there's a coach out in the Midwest. He's looking for players. He asked me if I was still playing ball. because we had played in Madison Square Garden. That's where he saw me play. And I lied. I said, yeah, I'm still playing, but I really wasn't. And I went out there, and my first year I was a knucklehead, fooling around, not serious. The brothers that played on my squad were from around the country, and they were very, very good. And that summer I went home. I went back to Brooklyn, and I worked in a Cascade Laundry pushing rack. Before that, in the city, I was a messenger. I worked in the garment center, underpressing, in a sweatshop, underpressing these women's clothes where you press the seam on the inside of the skirt on both sides. So I did that for a summer. And that's where I really saw slavery taking place, in the garment center in New York. So my second year in school, we were rated number 1 in the country, and I decided that summer before I went back for my second year that I was going to change. And I changed my whole program. I changed my attitude. I changed my mental. I got super strong mentally, and when we went back, we were rated number 1 in the country. I got a 3-page letter from the coach after I finished that year. It said that I made the difference on the squad because everybody came back, and I was on the 5, and he said that I made the difference. And from there, I got a chance to go to a school in New England, and again, we got a chance to do I did well. And one of the things that underscores all of this is that being out of school for a year really gave me an understanding of how important at that time school was. So I never missed a class. When I was in the Midwest, I never missed a class. When I went to New England, I never missed a class. And then when I finished school, I went back and I taught. I taught in high school for 2 years, and I coached. And I got a chance to try out a couple of NBA teams, one of which was the Celtics. The other was the Cincinnati Royals. They wanted me to come out, but I decided that I would go to school instead of going to try out. I wasn't in the ball like that. And then, as I said, I taught in high school for 2 years, and I coached. Then I went back to the city, and I coached on the college level. And simultaneously, I went to school, and I got 2 master's degrees, and then I got what's called an MED. That's a master in education. Then I got a doctorate degree in education, curriculum and development, with an emphasis on administration to supervision. Now, with all that being said, I wasn't conscious. I was becoming conscious. Being in the city and seeing the devastation, this was after the rebellions, this was around 1970, 68, 69, 70, and I slowly started to change. So in the early 70s, I decided I wasn't celebrating any more white holidays, and because it did not make economic sense. Now I see that our people are into a number of things. We believe, we feel, we know, we think, we understand, and then there are facts. So I started thinking about what I was doing. And I said that this idea of Christmas makes absolutely no sense, given the fact that I was not working, I didn't have this stream of income, and the people around me were basically broke. So I dropped all holidays. I stopped in the early 70s eating in the street, spending money in the street, because I didn't see my people working. I was on Broadway one time coming from Birdland, and I stopped to get an orange juice, and the guy gave me this little orange juice. It was like $5 in like a little 5-ounce cup, 6-ounce cup. I left him standing there. Said, I'm not spending no money like that out here. I went into a restaurant. I didn't see any black people working. At that moment, I said, I'm not spending my money where I don't see my people working. This was in the early 70s, 72, 73, 74. Then increasingly working in an Ivy League school, I started to hear this vibe about black people are intellectually inferior. I didn't know where that was coming from. So I started to do research. And one of the things a couple of things really triggered my ascension into consciousness. One was I had an encounter with a whitey, and this encounter was a crescendo moment. That's the only way I can describe it, because I was going to hurt this whitey. And I had a second thought. So I didn't do that, because if I did that, I wouldn't be here talking with you now. Then I had another moment. I was on my way to work, and this little brother, I'll never forget him, Eric, he came up to me. I was sitting in my car, I was eating grapes, and at this time I bought a small car. I wasn't in, like most brothers, I wasn't into cars like brothers are. Brothers are strung out on these damn whitey cars, and it makes no sense. And I had a little Volkswagen. The little brother came up to me and said, yo, man, give me your grapes. So I grabbed him by his collar. I said, who are you talking to? I said, what's your name? He said, my name is Eric. And I shook him up. And at that moment, I said, I'm spending my energy going up, working with these whiteys. I said, I need to be in the community. And so I got a chance to come back and work in Brooklyn in community development. Now, we call it community development, but really what I was doing was community networking. I made it my business to find where the resources were. And I'm going to back up a little bit. One of the other factors that helped raise my consciousness, I was reading an account of the killing of this brother, Randy Evans. And the cops killed this brother. He was 13 years old. And I could not understand, how could black people let something like this go down? And then I think about 2 weeks later, this guy, I think this was towards me, a white cop, he killed this little brother, Clifford Glover, 10 years old. And when they had the trial for this guy, this I learned this years later, when they had the trial for this cop and the judge says, officer, you were in pursuit of a man, a black man. How did you wind up shooting a little boy? And his response was, the only thing I saw was that he was black. So I knew that black people had a problem. Now this is going back 40-something years. So I worked in the community, and then I saw that what was getting ready to jump off was that these whiteys were going to pull the money out of the black communities after the rebellions of the 60s. And I saw the increase in drugs. I saw brothers on heroin. And so I went and I told my wife at the time, I said, we out. And so we left and we moved to the South where she had relatives. And we were able to very fortunately get some land. And before this happened, we decided that we were going to deliver our children at home. I cut whiteys loose. We weren't going to a hospital. So, this was a big decision, especially for her, my wife. And so she didn't take any medication. She did everything natural. Drank, certain teas for easy delivery, etc. And so I was present, and I delivered our second child at home. That's a great experience for a brother. If a brother wants to find out what love is, you be in a room when your queen is delivering a baby. And that is a change, that will produce a change in you that is unalterable. And then we delivered our second child at home. And then after that, we split from the city, went to the South, and we were able to get some land. And she and I, we built a small 12 by 22 structure because we couldn't afford to spend money in an apartment. So we built this 12 by 22 structure, and we lived in that structure for about 16 months. And we cooked on a hot plate. We didn't have running water, and we had to go to the bathroom outside. We did that for 16 months. Got a shovel, went out in the woods, and I was able to buy a potbelly stove, and I was able to cut wood, and so that heated our little spot. She cooked on the stove. I got some 35-gallon drums and sat them out in the sunlight, and that's how we heated the water that we did have. And then we built a log house It has 8 sides to it. It's called a Hogan. And we worked every day, night and day, rain, cold, sleet, snow, it didn't matter. We worked every day, and we built that house. It took us 16 months. Then we added on, and the whole process took us 9 years. We changed our diet in the 70s. I read a book entitled Survival into the 21st Century. I just came across a sister. She was giving a lecture. She said, yo, don't eat meat. I said, this is out of her mind. But I think, I went to her, I talked to her. I said, what are you talking about? So she said, look at this book. And she was referenced this book, Survival into the 21st Century, with an introduction by Dick Gregory. So I went to Harlem. I went up to the Tree of Life, Kanye. I got the book. It was supposed to be a gift for my wife. And I started reading that book. I gave it to her after I read it. But that book was a life-changing book. The guy, he talked about chicken having tuberculosis and cancer, and then he had I was in school, so he had a bibliography, so I knew I was hip to bibliographies, and I went and I checked out what the guy was saying, and from that moment on, I changed my diet. I changed my diet in 3 months. That means no pork, no beef, no chicken, no fish. I dropped the dairy products. I dropped sugar. And that was it. And I lost a lot of waste, W-A-S-T-E, not weight, waste. Now, remember, I'm still playing ball. And my friends told me, they said, man, you all right? What happened to you? I said, yeah, I changed my diet. They thought I was nuts. So we raised our children vegan. And one of the reasons we left the South, I saw the collapse of this country, the economic collapse. Now, I wasn't into Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark. I didn't know anything about that until, in the late 70s when I started reading. Then I came across, a friend of mine gave me some Barashango tapes. And Barashango, his books are African People, European Holidays, and Mental Genocide, Part 1 and Part 2. So I read that after I dropped all these white horror days. And then, as I got deeper into this, and in 81, I wrote a book. While we were building, I had a little typewriter. And I wrote my first book entitled Black Guerrilla Warfare in America, People's Manual and Manifesto on Survival and Resistance. And it basically said that we're at war and that we really need to dig ourselves and check out this war that's going on. And I got a chance to teach in college. I had, this degree, and I was very fortunate to get this position in the education department at a HBCU. And I did that for 18 years. And my teaching is different because I brought videos in, I brought books in. I did a lot of reading. I had students do a lot of reading and about everything that was relevant to education. I told them that testing was bogus, that testing, IQ tests, they're fraud. So I broke it down. I showed them how it's set up for its built-in failure. I showed them how television was designed to destroy the images of black people. And while I was in the city, I was part of an organization, Council on Interracial Textbooks for Children. And they actually broke it down how the images were, how black images were portrayed in books and in films. And then in the late 80s, I wrote another book. I did an interview, and it was on health. And somebody said, you should write a book. So I wrote a book, Food, Health, and You, Why Black People Die So Young. And what I do in that particular book, I used to read a lot, so I cut out news articles. And if I make a comment about something like dairy products, there was an article, cheese, deadly, et cetera, et cetera. So I put the actual article from the newspaper, the date, et cetera, in the book, in the heart of the book. Then I was so pissed off. I'm talking to black people, they're not listening. And I wrote this other book entitled Tips on Quick and Easy Ways Africans Can Commit Subtle Suicide. Because that came up with this idea that black people are committing forms of suicide, and this is the word, imperceptible, meaning they hardly even notice that they're killing themselves. It's like taking a block of ice and putting it on the sidewalk in 90-degree weather. It just doesn't melt altogether. It just melts slowly, and that's what subtle suicide is like. And again, I put news articles in my book to show you the different ways. I got a little piece in that book entitled The Killing Season. That was like from October 31st to, I don't know, February something. And that's the time that black people commit more subtle suicide. That's from Halloween to Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of the horror days, Valentine's Day, all that madness. And I came across one of Dr. York's books on Christmas, and then he had one on Halloween. And so this also helped reinforce that, this is madness that we're involved with. And then later on, I wrote an article in the 90s. Then we decided we bought a building in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we opened a bookstore called Blacknificent Books and more. It has a cultural center. It's a cultural center and bookstore. The Baynou Cultural Center. Baynou is the bird that spread wisdom, knowledge, and understanding for 500 years. And then we brought some of the top black thinkers into the cultural center. Kwame Ture, Dr. Ben was there 3 times. Dr. Charles Finch, Ramona Africa, Pam Africa, Dr. Khalid, Barashango, Del Jones, Pam Africa, Asa Hilliard was there, but he didn't get a chance to speak. Mama Marimba was there, and Claude Anderson, George Frazier, Molefe Asante, you name them. Most of them. The only one we didn't get was Dr. Clark. We got Jamil Alamin, of course, before he was set up that bogus arrest. He was there. We had the Prince Yehuda from the Hebrew Israelites. So we had the whole span of people. Africans come through to try to educate the people about what's really going on. And then I came out with a little article entitled "The Last Black Man Standing" that appeared in the Final Call around 97, and it literally went around the world. And then later, it's an actual book now, "The Last Black Man Standing," about a brother in the future who's looking back at the mistakes we're making now. Then I came out with another book entitled "The Last Book," and at that point I was just angry with brothers and sisters. I said, we don't need any more books. We got all the books. We had Tony Browder, his Nile Valley contribution. There's a lot of people, but I said, we don't need any more books. We got all the books. We got all the literature. Now we need the action. And so you notice that I agree with black liberation. Because my statement is, black liberation is the highest concept. I'm big on concept. Black liberation is the highest concept in this realm on planet Earth for African people. Nothing, black liberation, it eclipses, it nullifies, it supersedes and trumps anything and everything else any African can think of, say, or do. And everything we think, say, and do should relate to, be relative to, and relevant for our total liberation from under white terror domination. Now, I agree with black liberation. I don't say hotep, assalamu alaikum, I don't say yo, I don't say any of that. Because what we want to do is project into the universe this vibration called black liberation. And there's a sister of Howard University, Dr. Gloria Dunstan. She's one of the top geneticists in the country. And listening to her speak, she said that as a scientist, she's going to meld spirituality and science. And she says, this is one of her conclusions. She says, you ask the universe for what you want. She says the universe is prepared to bring into existence your request. She also says that for every problem, there is a solution. Now I'm going to go back. In one of my books, there's a general who was fighting against Hannibal. The general was General Cato, C-A-T-O. And he was going around trying to marshal support, galvanize the people to fight against Hannibal. And at the end of every presentation he gave, he would turn back before he left the room or the building. He would turn and he would say, Hannibal will be defeated. And then the people was a chorus. They all said, Hannibal will be defeated. And what happened was, you can go online and check this out, it became what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. It came into existence because they chanted it or they declared it. They made that declaration. So when we say black liberation, we're saying that we're putting that in the universe because that is the African gold, G-O-A-L-G-O-L-D standard. And so people don't come to me with anything else but black liberation. Don't come to me with anything about religion because black liberation is better than it. I don't commingle or cross-pollinate black liberation with any ideology, philosophy, religion, concept, or action. Because black liberation, in this constellation of things I just mentioned, black liberation is above all of that. That means that black liberation is stellar. So don't come to me with anything else but black liberation. Okay. And then I have some other books out. I'm not going to get into all that. I got about 16 books out. I couldn't get them all printed, so all of them are e-books.
Okay.
The last Black Man Standing, The Declaration, The Blackest Book, Volume 1 and 2. There's another one, You Should Be Ashamed of Your Nice But Duped Parents, saying our parents were tricked with a lot of this madness that, they passed on to us through these white concepts. Duped Parents 1 and 2, The Blackest Book 1 and 2, Message from the Ancestors, and then some other books I have. Okay.
You actually, you don't say a mouthful, brother. I want to start out asking about the various programs that you have did for the people, such as the JIEP, the Intervention Alternative Program. I would like to know more about these programs that you created and what was the goal of creating these programs.
Okay, when you say what is the program?
The JIEP, and also the Intervention Alternative Program.
The JIP program. That when I was in Brooklyn, that was the intervention program, and it was like the Scared Straight program. And what we did is that we took young brothers. I think we took some sisters, but we took the young brothers to the Queens jail. And, it took them in there, and the hardcore brothers in there, they stripped the little brothers down, took their belts, their shoelaces, really got on them, terrified them, and, to try to get them straight so that they wouldn't get into trouble. So we did that. I had a lot of education programs. We had a program at the high school where I had counselors. I got a little money. I was able to hire two good counselors, a sister and a brother, and they were able to help students with their homework, but also part of their job was to go and visit the homes. And I remember one mother, the brother came back, he said, the mother, when I knocked on the door to tell the mother that the son was doing well, the mother was like astonished. She said, "You're the first person." This little boy is in high school. He's like in the 10th grade. She said, "You're the first person that ever came to my house to tell me that my son was doing well." Then there was one other thing I wanted to mention. A brother came to me when I was working in Brooklyn. They had the summer leagues, basketball leagues. They were giving these young brothers these trophies, like 3 feet high, So he came to me with this invoice, $1,200 for trophies. So I said, listen, George, why don't we do this? Let's give these little brothers certificates, like with, do nice calligraphy writing with a gold trim around them saying that Brother Bomani participated in the Summer League, and he shows leadership, he shows teamwork, he does this, all these positive attributes. Now let's take that certificate and send it to the school, or give it to the parent and have the parent send it to the school to put in the son's permanent record. Now, this is my idea. This is in the 70s. I said, and what that does, now these demonic cops, they're always harassing brothers. In 2012, I'm going to fast forward, 2012, the cops in New York stopped 684,000 primarily brothers, harassing them. Almost 700,000 in 1 year. So now let's say they pick up Brother Bomani, or they pick up Kamau, and I'm in front of this judge, and he's looking through my record, and he comes across this certificate. Now, he wants to send me away. But now this little certificate might just be the thing to make him pause and not give him justification for coming down on me hard. So in education, I always tell parents, I got a thing on my website that I think everybody should get. Everybody that's got a child in school, I think it's something about a parent letter. And it's a letter that I created that parents can just fill it in. So I'm not going to get into that, but you can check it out. And what you do, once it's filled out, you can send it certified to the principal or to the teacher. And what that will do, that'll put those demons in check. Right? It'll stop them from trying to railroad this child into special ed. So you got to check out what's called the anecdotal record. And this is where a teacher can make a subjective statement about a child. So the child could have all A's or B's, but the teacher says, well, Kamau, he's uncooperative, he doesn't sit still, and that is the record that really follows the child. So you got to check out the anecdotal record, and you got to send these important pieces of paper to the child's school record. Last example, I go to the post office here, and there's a brother who's very nice, very cordial, etc. So I went back, and I wrote a letter to the supervisor. The brother's name was Charles. So I wrote a letter to the supervisor. Found out the supervisor's name. I wrote a letter. I said, Charles, he does great work. He does this, he's that, and I sent it certified to the supervisor. I go in a couple of weeks later, Charles, he runs up, he was behind the counter. He said, man, the supervisor got that letter, put it in my record. That would really help me, you see. So when they go to evaluate him, they can't come down on him because he got a letter like that. So a lot of people say, oh, don't write letters. I'm big on writing letters because letters will put whiteys in check, man. Believe me. I've done it too many times to discount it. So that was one of the programs. So I created a lot of things. We did a chess club at the bookstore, at the cultural center, to get young people to think. So we did, did a lot of stuff. But my main thing I want to convey tonight is the paradigm or the Kambondigm that my son and I created. Because when I was going through drama, working at the university, I didn't have an understanding of the world. So I went to my grandfather. I said, what's up? I'm going through this stuff with these whiteys. I said, what's up? So I don't remember our conversation, but I think that this is very, very important to see the structure of the world. Dr. Francis Chris Welsing, who is now not an ancestor, but what I created a word called grand cester. And a grand sister is one who has explicitly been fighting for the liberation of African people. So Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, these are grand sisters. Kwame Ture, these are grand sisters. George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, grand sisters. Chairman Fred Hampton, grand sister. Bunchy Carter, grand sister. You see, these are grand sisters. Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Nat Turner. These are grand sisters. There's a brother, Charles Deslones, brother I admire. He led the rebellion in New Orleans in 1811. He said, shit, we're going to take New Orleans over. We're going to make it the democracy that these demons claim it's supposed to be. And this is very important, he assembled 500 Africans from different tribes who had different religions or spiritual systems, different customs. And he cut across all of that, and they all got down with total liberation, which shows that it can be done. So all this madness that all of our people are into, I'm this, I'm in this paradigm, I'm in this group, we got to drop all of that. I'm saying we got to drop all of it because it's all madness. These whiteys don't care nothing about that. So I created this paradigm. Look at the globe. So do you have a question? And then I want to get this on the record.
Okay. We actually got a caller. The caller want to ask a question there. You can go after that question, you can go and break it down. You go and break it down, dog. We got a caller in. One of the people that engage into the dialogue as well. John, if you go on the line up to the caller, brother.
All the caller lines. We have a caller from area code 510. Are you there? Caller from area code 510. Are you there? Okay, caller from area code 803. Are you there? Caller from area code 803. Are you there? Okay, well, it looks like they don't want to. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay. So let me break this down for you, brother. So if you got a piece of paper, I want you to check it out. You got a piece of paper. Let's see that you're standing across the street from a building that has 11 floors. And on each floor, there are 10 windows, except for the top floor. It's just one big window from one end to the other end. So from left to right on the second floor is 10 windows. The top floor is just one big window. The third floor is 10 windows from left to right. The next floor, 10 windows left to right. The next floor is just one big window. The next floor, 10 windows. And the next floor, 10 windows. Okay, you got it? So I hope you all write this down because this is important. I think it's important.
Okay.
All right, so on the top floor, so it's 11 floors. On the top floor, you're standing across and looking at this building. On the top floor, it's a big window. And behind that window are all white people, 5,000, 10,000 white people. And what they're doing is that they are talking about how are they going to continue to oppress and kill African people. That's what their discussion. Now, I create my own vocabulary. Now, I say that, number one, I never use the word white supremacy. I never say white supremacy because white people are not supreme. White people dominate using terror and deceit. And because they use terror and deceit, these two things always, always, always lead to destruction and death. when a person says, when an African person says white supremacy, they're saying that white people are supreme, and they are automatically putting themselves in a psychologically subordinate position. That is one of the reasons I don't say white supremacy. I say white terror, domination, and deceit. Okay. Nor do I say white people, the royal family, the queen. No. I said, look at where in their history do they show royalty? You show me. Tell me where they show royalty. No, they're not royal. They are, and I don't say elite, because I call them the sleazy freaks. That's what they are. So, no white supremacy, no elite, none of that. That's psychological suicide, to project them on a pedestal like that. So in this top room, they're organizing, and I also call them the cesspool people. The cesspool people. They come from the pool. Okay. So their main policy on that top floor is the destruction of African people. That's their policy. Okay, so now you drop down to the next tier, and from left to right there are 10 windows. And so what they did up in that top floor, they were organizing how they're going to continue to dominate and run the planet. And this is how they're going to do it. And let's just take this context in this country. On the left, and we're going to start numbering these. The left window is number, is number 1. And that is I call it the gobs of vomit. Most people call it the government. And in the government, you have legislative, executive, judicial, and under that you have NGOs. Okay, you all follow? You follow me, Brother Bomani?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay, so the first one is the gobs of vomit, or the government. The second window, corporations. The third window, universities. The next window, foundations. The next window, think tanks. Then you have banks, insurance companies, credit card companies, churches, hospitals, the mafia. I don't know, how many is that?
Okay. You said after the insurance, you got credit card.
Credit cards.
Yeah, churches after credit card.
Churches, hospitals.
Okay.
I got banks in the banks. So it should be 9 coming across, and then the last box is, in the 9th box you should have, what I have is MST over MST. This should be in the 9th box. Let me see if I got it right. Yeah, okay. And that stands for math, science, and technology over matter, space, and time.
Okay. And what exactly do you call this format that you're giving us?
This is my paradigm I'm gonna lay out for you, so people can see what the world looks like, so that when something happens, we know exactly where it fits. Because the whole design of the white dominators is to create confusion, and confusion, con means against, fusion, which means union. So they want to create confusion, but the paradigm lays out a crystal clear analysis to eliminate confusion. So when something happens, we know, that's what that is. That's what that is, you see. So so in that, and in the last box, the 10th box, it should be let me see. UFDCDD, and that stands for Unknown Scheming Demons Create Destruction and Death. So the 10th box is that they're up to something now that we don't yet know about.
You said unknown scheming demon what?
Unknown scheming demons create destruction and death. So that should be the 10 boxes on the second tier. So it should be from 1 to 10. Now, in this country, the U.S. has military, about 900 to 1,000 military bases all around the planet. They're called lily pads bases, which means that they can be deployed at a moment's notice to deal with whatever they need to deal with. So now let's take this concept of the lily pad military bases, and from number 11 to number 20, what they have done is they've created lily pad operations to make sure that they control African people. So number 11 is psychological control. Okay, and I'll give you a book to go along with that. A couple of books. One is The Psychotechnology of Brainwashing. Another one is Mind Control in America. Another one is Naeem's book, Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery. Okay, so this is a lily pad operation. So this is psychology. Next to that is number 12, is cultural historical. And they control the people culturally, historically. You know, they hide the history, they wipe out the history, but they control them through holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and all of that. They control them with European names. People want to have a white wedding, spend $10,000, $15,000 on a wedding. That's ridiculous. Buying diamond rings, supporting the South African government primarily. So that's the cultural historical. The next is the economic window. And in that window, what they want, now remember, this is all about control. So in the economic window, they want people they set an artificial standard, right? All this is an artificial standard of trying to achieve a standard that is unrealistic. So in economics, they make sure that they deprive the people of the resources they need, and so psychologically the people are always striving to meet fake standard, and they're willing to kill to reach this standard. So that's why they created credit cards. That's why they created debt, and debt is slavery. So this is the economic piece. Loans, pawn shops, payday loans, all that comes under economics. Then the next window is education. And we say under education, really, Carter G. Woodson talks about miseducation, but I say it's misconception. Misconception, because the concept is the baseline for everything. Remember, a mother used to say, well, young man, who do you think you are? You see, people in insane asylums, they think there's somebody they're not. So it's all about the concept. So whoever controls the head controls the person. And if they can get white concepts in an African head, then they got control of the person. So then the next one is health. So under health, they want people to be omnivores, eat anything that's not nailed down, eat any time of the day, whatever you want, dairy products, dead animals, kangaroos, raccoons, chickens, pigs, eat anything. So that's the health thing. And the next window is religion. And next to religion I have on the side of it is ISM. And ISM refers to idols, symbols, mythology. That's where the white Jesus comes in, control people through religion. You can go the Council of Nicaea, John Jackson's book, The Pagan Origin of Christianity, 16 Crucified Saviors Before Christ, Cursey Graves. You can get into all of that if you want, but, control them through religion. The next one is, social. Set up a whole social class, upper class, lower class, middle class, keep everybody at each other's throat. Then the next one is political. Marcus Garvey said everything is political, but under political, I have a statement that says, always at war. And then other ones, I can explain that later. So that's from, so the top tier is 1 to 10. This tier is 11 to 20. And then the next tier is 21 to 30. So this is the lily paths, the psychology, the culture, the economics, the education, the health, the religion, the social, the political, controlling space, matter, and time, science, technology, and mathematics, and then the unknown. Now, the next tier is where we come in. If you go back to the psychology, by the way, on number 11, there's a good video online. It's called Making a Killing. And while I'm at it, let me just put this on the record, that everything in this country is a fraud, is bogus,